Give him a break, give him a break, you gotta give him a break, man. Give him a flake, give him a flake, you got to give him a flake, man. Victor will teach you about all the things in Japan that you want.
Hello there, Moors. It's Victor, King of the Moors, here in Nagoya. I just left Tsudomai Park. I just uploaded a video before this video about just Hanami at night. It's pretty cool. You should definitely check it out. Right now, though, I'm answering a stupid question. This is something I do on the channel. If you do have a stupid question, please be forewarned that if you send it to me, I may ridicule you, because that is part of the fun. What's the point of not ridiculing stupid questions? Because most probably you could have Googled the goddamn thing and not bothered me. But for some reason, some of you want to connect with me, which I completely understand. People want to touch me, it's okay. It's like, you know, internet-wise, whatever. But anyway, let's get to today's question right away. Look, it's cool restaurant. Cool. Comes from a guy who I will not name, who is married to a Japanese woman. He's been in Japan 3 or 4 years. And he came to me with a very interesting question. One that I actually have asked myself. And it has to do with the teaching of Japanese between couples. Let me explain. Okay, when you're married to someone, or dating someone for that matter, it's very natural to want to ask them language questions, right? Of course. Like, what is this? What does that mean? Why does it say that? This is different from my textbook. But, and I can tell you from experience, that such questions do lead inevitably to discord in the relationship. So you should ask those questions with that in mind. It could destroy your relationship. So what do you want more, knowledge or love, basically? And I'll give you a very typical example of how this, of my case first. And that a few years ago, actually I had a girlfriend who, quite a few years ago actually, when I was first learning Japanese, I had this beautiful, wonderful girlfriend. And she wanted a part-time job in the summertime, and I was like, well, you know, I'll tell you what, let me pay you to teach me, and I'll pay you 1,000 yen an hour. I have no idea what the number was, but anyway, that's not the point. Here's the point: we would go to Denny's, right, and we'd go through a textbook, and I would ask her questions. But since she was not a trained language teacher, she could not explain things well, which led me to know frustration. And the frustration turned into visible stress, which caused stress in our relationship. And long story short, tears were shed, mostly on her end, as she could see that she was not making me happy, you know. But it wasn't really her fault. It was a mistake, you know. I thought I could kill two birds with one stone, spend 2 birds with one stone by spending more time with a woman that I loved, and at the same time learn some Japanese, which I also wanted to do, but it was a mistake. So that is one side, okay? Now, the other side of that coin is the opposite, where I would ask my wife or later girlfriend. Actually, it only happened with my wife. It seems to happen with the wives more, but you know, they're busy, they got other things to do. So when I ask my wife questions, well, actually she's not bad at all, but I have seen it before with other couples, right? You ask a woman that you're involved with a question, and I guess it has to happen with my wife occasionally. It's not too bad actually, and they're annoyed by the question for a couple of reasons. Number one, look at the little puppy. They cannot explain, and number two, they're just busy. They don't have the time to be screwing around and answering your stupid questions, right? So that's actually it. That's really all it is. Now the email I got today is from a guy who's married 3 or 4 years now, living in Japan, and the exact example he gave me was, he works in a company with other Japanese people, and he noticed that in the Japanese company, they do not say arigatou gozaimasu Instead, they pronounce it arigatou gozaimasu, arigatou gozaimasu, right? They don't say the ari. They skip the ari. So short story, long story short, they tend to contract their expressions. They tend to shorten their expressions, and it's very typical. So for example, arigatou gozaimasu would be arigatou gozaimasu. So he noticed this, and of course he asked his wife, he said, hey honey, I noticed that, you know, Japanese people don't really say arigato, they say arigato. They don't say, oh, gozaimasu, say, hold on, let me give you another example. Oh yeah, irashaimase, say, irashaimase, right? And it really doesn't sound like the textbook expression that you learn. Oh, we'll go through here today, what the hell, yeah. It doesn't always sound the same, that's the point. So she asked his wife. He goes, okay, why don't I should say it that way too, right? To sound like the Japanese. And she said, no, you'll sound stupid. And or something like that. Anyway, she recommended against it, long story short. And he wants to know why. And I completely understand this situation. There's something funny about when you're learning Japanese. You'll discover quite quickly that Japanese tend to say shiranakute mo ii, which means you don't need to know that. So they're quite happy with you achieving a certain level. And they don't want you learning certain things that they find offensive, right? Like bad words, you know, dirty words, things like that, which is natural, of course. You know, they want you to learn proper, nice Japanese, which is fine. But of course, the longer you're here, the more impractical that becomes, and you start feeling stupid when people understand basic Japanese and you do not, because people refuse to teach it to you, right? Now, this has happened to me quite a bit when I hear something interesting on TV and I'll ask someone about it, or I hear something interesting anywhere and I'll ask somebody about it and they'll say, no, you don't have to know that. You really have to beg them to please teach me. Tell me what you're talking about. I want to know, you know. If you don't do that, they don't tell you, right? Now that's one part of it. Now another part of it is, if you are a person who cannot speak Japanese very well, but you learn how to say one thing fluently, for example, "Arigatou," like that. If you were able to scream "thank you" quite fluently, then you just sound ridiculous. So you can say one word like a native, but everything else, you know, you can't communicate at all otherwise. Well, that's just silly, you know. And I understand that. And I've actually met Japanese students who can say a couple expressions in English extremely well, and they have fooled me in the beginning into thinking that they're fluent. Everything's closed down here, but they're not, of course. Oh my God, it's really crowded up there. What the hell's going on up there? Look how crowded it is up there. It's like a mob. Something's going on. This is one of the great things about coming along with me as I travel, folks, because you will just we'll discover things together by accident. So anyway, that's the way things happen. What I would recommend, it's just a little mob. What I would just recommend is learn proper Japanese first. What is this? Imakara. What's happening here? I don't know. You're blocking the way. Seishimasu. Oh, just people hanging out. Must be opening. Anyway, that's what I would recommend is learn enough Japanese, learn to the point where you can be considered fluent, and people will consider you fluent. Seishimasu. And when they consider you fluent, then you can insist on learning the colloquial ways to say things, okay? But don't try to learn one expression that makes you sound fluent when you are not fluent at all. That's all I would say about that. When it comes also to asking wives and stuff for help, even now, because you know my wife either had a full-time job before or now she's taking care of the baby all the time. Even now, I resist asking her. I'd rather ask someone else. because there's less stress involved, right? And other people are actually quite happy to help you out when you ask them a question. They're like, oh, let me tell you, they're quite happy. It takes a special kind of person to want to teach you stuff all the time. I've told my wife time and time again, like, hey, I'm living in Japan now, and my Japanese got to get better, so you got to help out sometimes to correct it. And she does. She corrects it sometimes. So she's much better now, and it doesn't seem to annoy her. I think there was a time where it annoyed her a little bit, but we've been married like, I don't know, 10 years now, so going up on, seemed like 20, but I'm just kidding, Mom. Just kidding, Mama. You got to call Japanese wives. You always call Mama after a while. When you have a kid, I mean. But anyway, mixing studying with romance, not always a good idea. I would avoid it if at all possible. That would be my recommendation. Get another teacher if you can. Someone that's not going to be annoyed by your questions, and someone that your wife is okay with you asking as well, co-workers and such. The other option is actually getting yourself a little notebook and collect the expressions that you want to ask about. And once a week, hire a proper Japanese teacher to just answer the questions. Or I'm sure you can even find one online. And we actually offer that service. So if you want to take lessons, I have native speakers who are willing to teach you. You can also do that. This is not one long commercial for that, leading up to that point, but if you are interested, you can let me know. We have 4 students now learning over Skype, and they're all quite happy. So yeah. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed my little bike ride tour as I answer your stupid question. It wasn't actually that stupid a question. And to reward you, I will now go under a very short tunnel, but it looks kind of weird. Yeah, there we go. Whoa, that was kind of scary, wasn't it? Not really, huh? Okay. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Good night.